All right. Well, so we're here, BJ. How you been? Oh, wait a minute. Let's see. I didn't hear your mic on that one. Let's see. Try again. Ah, you've gone silent. Still silent. We were just talking. Let's see. Oh, it says here guest has muted themselves. So click on this platform. Somewhere in this platform, there's a mute button. I think on your end. I don't see your end. Well, I'm going to bring. Let me bring Mark in here. Mark, let's see if we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Sweet.
Well, BJ will be working in the background trying to figure out why he's muted himself. I don't think I can unmute him on this end, but I'll start off with what BJ starts off with every week, which is, first of all, welcome. Glad to have you with us. And second, how did you wind up in volleyball?
Actually, it was because of a girl. I
Ah,
came out of a basketball program, and some friends asked me to play volleyball, and I really liked it, and it kind of ballooned from there. And I played in some good leagues and got better and played around. When you play with better players, they're not going to let you stick an arm out or do crazy things. And as my oldest son now, um, got interested in it because I was interested in it. I coached him for a couple of years, and he actually played in some sand leagues with us. And then when he moved away with his mom, I had some people ask me to start coaching, and it kind of ballooned from there.
okay, great. Well, BJ's with us now. We can hear him.
I think. Can you hear
Yep.
me?
Yeah, we can.
Can we
Excellent.
mute you again? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Yeah, for the joining for the girl is that's the way. I did the same when I was 17, and she's still mad that probably still mad that she got me to join because it occupies a lot of our time.
Yeah, my current wife and we actually met playing volleyball, though she's not involved with the sport anymore. But actually, a statistical oddity is my friend who introduced me to her, our birthdays are exactly the same to the year.
Wow,
And we met at a pickup volleyball place, and we've been together ever since.
that's cool.
So coaching kind of came late. I wasn't really sure I had the temperament for it. A lot of my playing days was between first wife and second wife, and I was tough to play with. I was tough to play against because I was very frustrated. When you have your kids and custody and all these different things, and I was surprised that I did have the temperament I didn't think I had. I mean, I've had my moments. I think everybody does, but I was surprised. There's probably a lot of people that are surprised too. Sure, let
More
me
and
get.
more, more and more, I think that's really one of the critical skills is just that self control, whether it's at practice or matches. Uh, it, Mark Dunphy calls it consistency, and I think he's talking about more than just temperament, but it applies to temperament. That consistency, so that players and referees and even your boss and maybe even the fans can trust you somewhat, or trust that we're not going to have somebody blow up or get kicked out or embarrass us or whatever that is.
Yeah, and when you look at basketball and you just look at how the coaches talk to the officials, I mean, they're chewing on them, they're in their face and stuff. You do that in a volleyball match, you might make it 5 points, and you're out of there. And I've been officiating these last few years, and I've got a pretty thick skin, but if you're like yelling across on every double that doesn't get called or every in out that a 15-year-old might have missed, you're not going to be long for volleyball.
Yeah, I would agree. And kind of getting closer to our topic, maybe this is the first of many lessons. Uh, we talked about maybe things we would have told ourselves, our younger selves. You've seen the series of letters from athletes that they write this long letter to themselves when they're beginning their sport, and it's pretty telling. Um, Maybe this is our version of that, but that's probably one of the first things I would tell myself would be just to back off, get off the referees, you know, stop the ranting and so rarely would it be necessary to ever speak to a referee. At least in my current temperament, I used to talk to him all the time.
Yeah, I think that's a hard lesson to learn. It's I pick my spots a lot better than I used to, and I really don't get into it about subjective calls. That girl takes that ball and throws it, across her body, spinning 100 miles an hour. It was a double, and they let him play. You might get a look from me, but it's more like a missed rule, like a libero setting an attacking hitter in front of the 10-foot line, using her hands, something like that. That's a rule thing that I think, okay, that's where, my captain's going to come over, or I might do a, back row, something like that. But, I've definitely changed on that. I think that sets the tone, especially for your players. And I think it sets the tone for the parents that are watching. If you're going crazy on the sidelines, you're telling everybody else go crazy, especially the parents.
Yeah.
If the parents are whining about doubles and you're just going about your business, sometimes those parents are going to settle down. Well, the coach isn't mad, so maybe it's just maybe we need to shut up now. Doesn't always work, but I think we lead in that way. I think the same thing with the players. I see it when I'm on the ref stand. Coach is arguing with me all the time. I guarantee you I'll see that captain more than I might BJ's team, or your team. It's really funny how, you are centered. You are the example. You're not just the example about coaching. You're the example about temperament. You're the example about how you carry yourself. We were talking about my assistant coach. I'm very big on, I'm always on time. We talked about, if I tell him to be there at 8 o'clock in the morning, I'm there at 7:45. And especially in school setting, you're the supervisor of those kids. You want to make an AD mad, you show up a half hour after the girls and they're messing around and running around. They're doing crazy stuff. But I think my skill set, this is going to sound really silly. I DJ'd weddings for 30 years. And at a wedding reception, you can't walk in the door not into it. People will pick up on that in a second. And you could not feel well, you might be whatever, just not in a good mood and stuff, but they deserve your best. I feel the same way about coaching, no matter what. Even if you don't think you can win this game, even if it's, you were out late with your buddies, and you didn't get home till 2 o'clock in the morning and your first game is at 8, the girls or the boys, they don't care. You're coach now. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I've always been like that. I've always looked at how I carried myself on the sideline and how I carried myself to everybody. If I'm coaching against BJ, we're going to shake hands. And even if I don't know you, hey, how's your season going? Especially high school. How's your season going? How are things? Stuff like that. I think that's one of the things that's changed, because I was very paranoid when I started, especially with high school. I've heard people tell me it's the difference between the girls and the boys game, but I was paranoid. I didn't talk to anybody. The kind of communication that you and I have, when we sat at the restaurant talking about how we run our practices, I never would have done that in 2005. I would have talked to you and drank a beer with you and talked to you about Huskers versus Wisconsin, but X's and O's or how to make my practices better, I was very guarded. I don't know why. I think
that's one thing I think I did right early on. As soon as I got my first varsity job, I think it was 24. And as soon as I got that job, I knew some of the people, I knew of them, but a couple of them were just real welcoming, and um, I I I think that's one of the few things that I got right was we are all pretty good friends, especially in our conference. We, went to conference meetings, drove together, ranking meetings. We drove together, hung around together, and that. I know we're talking about stuff we did wrong or fixed, but uh, I
So,
I get it though. I mean, on the girls' side for sure, a lot of the coaches are very guarded. They don't want to talk about what they do or give details. And on the boys' side, I think it's survivorship. The college men speak to each other all the time, actually help each other recruit some. Hey, I know about this guy. We can't use him, but I think he fits your system. They do that a lot.
yeah, Ray Vance said that I was going to go out to the men's Final Four when it was at George Mason, and him and a couple other people had told me it's like the vibe is completely different than the women's Final Four, and coaches. He just said it's a completely different vibe, just like what you're saying. Just the sharing, the talking, you know, helping each other out and stuff. And I'm not saying it doesn't happen in the girls' game, but I actually think some of the forums, the positives of the forums, has helped people network a little bit.
Yeah.
I look at people like Lauren Haight up in Michigan, who we've gotten to be great friends, and she's up there trying to deal with a culture that's just awful. And but she's probably going to be at Casa de Curlin for the ABCA this year. Um, just because I want her to come down and meet all these people, and if I can help her out, in that way, because it's in Omaha, if I can help her out in that way, where she can get around other coaches, get out of that culture, because that's the only example she's getting is just parents screaming at her, a high school that's had a terrible culture that she's trying to fix. And I think it'd be great to get her out here for a week and introduce her face to face to some people, just to kind of see that it's just not like that. It's certainly not like that in Nebraska.
Yeah.
The funny thing for me is I started at a club. Actually, when I wound up going to adversity, Mike used to always say, "Oh, you coached on the dark side," and we were really, it was blocked, and it was 90 minutes of drills and the old school drills, lots of repetitive, make it look good kind of stuff. But one of the things that happened at that club is because we had all these things blocked, the whole gym was doing some things at the same time, and it was the girls were doing repetitive stuff, and the coaches would congregate and talk about what they were doing and what they were going to do with the 30 minutes they had, that they could do what they wanted to do. And I learned a lot from that, and I was able to interact with a lot of different coaches at and this is club, some moms who just got drafted to coach, and some coaches who'd been around for a long time. But that was actually less so when I got to a club that was more, I'll say, in the Kessel school of how to teach the sport. And but we didn't have quite as much interaction. That would have been one change I would have made at that club. Is finding a way for coaches to interact more, because we generally would come in, do our practice, and leave. And there'd be a little bit of interplay, but not as much as I was at the dark side clubs, which wasn't a dark side club. It was just a different way of teaching the game. So I think I do agree with you. At least my experience has been coaches are pretty open. And I coach at a school that's just, volleyball is not very popular. We're not drawing the best athletes from the school yet, but we're starting to get some traction. And I will say the coaches that we play against have a nice level of respect for what we're trying to do. We played 2 matches against the eventual state champions, and those guys could not have been nicer and more complimentary and more supportive of what we're trying to accomplish, even though they just beat our brains in. I mean, I had to wait 45 minutes for the bus because we were done so soon. But those 45 minutes were great because we talked to them for 45 minutes, and they gave us some ideas, and and gave us a lot of encouragement. So it can be a fun place when you get folks like that.
I think
Let's
that
pick out another. Let's pick out another one of these big watershed moments or watershed ideas. Something that you were doing, Mark. Give us one that you were doing that's a total reversal that you're glad you changed from early on.
I used to be the drill guy. I used to be the guy that felt like he had to have 10,000 drills, and I'm planning my practice, and okay, we're going to do the UCLA slide something drill, or we're going to do the this or that. And I've kind of gone to the Russ Rose. We do about 10 drills, and we might change them this or that, but that's about all we do. And the only kind of real drills I would say that we do is usually just for warm up. And I've kind of channeled my inner BJ a little bit, and especially with club, we did a lot of 4-on-4 and or 5-on-5, and we told them how we wanted to score it. We told them what we wanted to get out of them. That's been a big change for me, because I always felt like, if people are watching you, they expect drills. They expect from 3:30 to 3:45 you're doing this, from 3:45 to 4 you're doing this, um, and I've changed a ton. I probably don't even I've got books downstairs, 1001 drills to, and here's the section on passing, here's the section on hitting and stuff. I don't even look at them anymore. I usually, we pass, we hit, um, a lot of, serve receive. Like a lot of people that know me here, I hate butterfly drills, and I'd rather set them up and serve receive, and I think that's probably one of the things that BJ, you and I talked about early on in our friendship is just, you have to use a ball. Let them put the ball in play. I don't need to be putting balls in play. Do this stuff off of a serve, do this stuff off of a hit. And that was a big change for me. But probably the last 5 years, it's made my teams better for sure.
Kessel sent me straight on that early on. I think it's maybe my second year of coaching. He got to me, and I don't know how you changed it, but I abruptly changed, and the players were ready for mutiny. They did not like it because they saw so much easy success in the drills. They could feel the improvement quickly. So they really didn't like the let's play. I think a change I might have made there is I wouldn't have made that so abrupt. I would have maybe slowly or over a season or a half a season, let them keep a couple of their favorite drills, but we'd have just shortened it. I couldn't. And Jen had me convinced quickly, so I didn't want to waste the time, and I don't know if it would have been a waste. I think it just would have been an easier transition for the players, because I'm the same. I mean, butterfly, Marwan, just Steve. I don't know if I've told you this one at the clinic that Mike ran, the Cap 3 clinic. He asked me. We were watching Bill Neville run butterfly, and of course, butterfly began in his gym. Was named butterfly by one of his players. And Marwan asked me, what do you think of butterfly? And I said, I don't really like it, because I don't like the automatic rotation. I want them to either get a reward or, come to natural consequences. I lost or I shanked it, I'm out. If I pass well, I get to stay or whatever, some sort of competition rather than just automatic. And so I explained all that to him. And then after the session, Neville's walking over, and Marwan says to Bill, "Hey, Bill, BJ doesn't like your butterfly drill."
Nice.
That was great.
It's funny. It's funny though. Mike and I asked Mike to he was trying to design a better serve and serve receive drill, so or grill or whatever you want to call it. And so basically, it's a butterfly. It's a rotating. Let's forget the butterfly part because it's not butterfly in shape. But it's a drill that does everything. It starts with a serve. It gets a receive. It gets a set. It gets an attack. It gets a block, depending on the number of players you have available. But if we've got 10 to 12 kids in the gym, we can do it. But you're right. It's not. That's the kind of, I'll call it exercise, that isn't going to give you the competitive element, other than, maybe the guy who didn't get a set because you didn't pass the ball well and had to rotate through, giving you the stink eye, going, I really wanted to get a swing on that one, and I got to go all the way through again to get another swing. But I think there's elements of trying to make it do what you want it to do. I think I'm trying to remember. I think it was Cecile at the Cap 3 at Adversity who said, score what you want. And although I did see a comment, and it's a fair comment, somebody said about they had some negative scoring, and I've used that. But it can be so demoralizing that I'm not sure that negative scoring works quite as well. It depends on the level and all of that. But I think
it takes a certain amount of maturity.
Yeah. Yeah, especially for young players, and I was coaching 13s and 17s at the time, so probably let things carry over from one to the other. But you mentioned Marwan. I was looking at things I learned from all of our guests, and Omar was on with us, and he told the story of how he asked Marwan how could he be a good coach. What would help him be a good coach? He says, I just need one answer from you. How to be real in practice. Go off for 2 days and come back and tell me how to be real in practice. I still don't know that I can answer that question.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I've wrestled with that one too, and it's a great question. I don't want to give an answer because if people are listening to this podcast, they can think about it themselves. Maybe we'll talk about that in a later episode. But
yeah,
it's a great thing to contemplate.
Yeah, I think it's hard though. It's hard to take that control away. I did not do it abruptly. I looked at some of the stuff that we were doing, and it's like, how can I take myself out of hitting that roll shot? How can I take myself out of doing this or doing that? And now it feels comfortable. But you said something that was important to that. The kids hated it. If I wasn't hitting balls at them, if I wasn't doing this, then I wasn't, they didn't initially think I was engaged, because that's the only way they've been taught. Coach stands here and does this, coach stands here and does that, coach, does whatever. The first time I handed a ball to a girl, it says, okay, roll it over, hit a roll shot over to the other side. She's like, me? So yeah, I said, that's where it's going to come from. And it was a big change. And it was, my previous high school, the last couple of years, it was a lot more well received. They were used to it. That was how we did things. And to be honest, in like a high school setting, when you can't really practice with them and it's a legit open gym, they have things to draw on where they can set their own drills up per se, or their own activities. Maybe I'll say that. It's like, instead of, hey coach, what are we going to do? Well, play some 6-on-6 and do this or do that. And that's, like I said, that's another change. The whole idea of play to get you better. I try not to practice anything that I cannot apply. I can make them do cool stuff all day long, but like serve receive. There's 6 girls receiving serve because there's 6 girls receiving serve in a game. And one of the things I don't like about butterfly and these replacement drills is you've got combinations that you would never use in a game. Whereas that 6, I can put that outside, that libero, that right side, whoever, get them used to talking to each other. I've got that seam, I've got that ball and stuff. That's why I don't like, that's the number one reason I don't like butterfly. It's just unrealistic to me.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. And I think the counter to that, and I'll give you the counter to that from my perspective, is we're trying to make them whole volleyball players. And especially in my world, I've got all these guys who've never played before. So I don't know who I know who my 6 are right now, and I know who my 3 receivers are right now, but that's going to change. As you get more established and you're trying to refine the game, I could definitely see where, hey, this guy's never going to receive a serve. Let's let him work on what he's going to do as opposed to what he's not going to do.
Okay, then I guess my pushback to that would be, especially in COVID land, that kid might have to receive serve. Mm-hmm. Or you may have to have that kid in that spot and you may have to change your serve receive. Yeah. It's like, okay, this left side is a great passer, but she's got COVID, so her replacement is not really a great serve receiver. So now, that right side, we've got to practice her, or find some way to, maybe we pass with two,
Yeah.
or something like that. I'm a firm believer in, especially in that first hour of practice, everybody does everything. That 5'3" girl is going to block. That 6 foot girl is going to pass, and all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things, I think, BJ, I've told this story too, last couple of years at the high school I was at, we worked a lot on out of system balls and just trusting our hands. I mean, out of system, setter takes the first ball, libero goes, and she bumps it to the outside. That's everybody's go-to out of system play. And we practiced some other stuff, and then I told the girls, it's practice. Trust your hands. Take a chance at it. Who cares? It's just us. And all of a sudden, I got 5 or 6 girls. I think, BJ, I told you, these girls were coming to me. Did you see that set? I should be a setter coach. I heard that last 2 years like no other. It was the funniest thing ever. My middle, it was just setting beach balls just perfectly. And it was so funny to watch and listen to them chirp about it. It lightened up practice too. They were all kind of showing off, like, look at me, look at me, setter, look at, look at my hands. So it was kind of funny.
How about where were you when you first started with conditioning? I know we did a lot of pretty unrealistic drills that were intended for them to get them, get them in shape. This is a sport, um, and I got set fairly straight on that pretty quickly. But I know it was a couple of years where we had several drills, and they were just, I mean, they were even named poorly. One was named Blue Lips, and there was one that we named after a player who had asthma. She a couple times the first season I had her, she had an asthma attack during the drill, because we just ran her too hard. I mean, we now do zero conditioning. Most of the athletes that I had were multi-sport athletes, so they were playing two at a time, and we play volleyball to get in volleyball shape. I don't know, where were you guys at on that?
I think for me, that's also been a change. I'm not a strength and conditioning coach. The high school, we've had people come in and do some stuff. We did a little bit. We did some sprints. We did some. We didn't run a mile. We did a little bit of jump training and stuff. But I like you said, we had a drill. I'm almost sure this is a Kessel drill. It was 0 to 25, and you only could get points on kills, aces, blocks. You couldn't get points on mistakes from the other team. If they hit it in the net, they drill one out of bounds and stuff. And this happened a couple of years ago. I thought this drill would take like 20 minutes. It took them a half an hour to get to 18 all. And we had a team dinner scheduled that night. And so it's like 6 o'clock, and I'm like, okay, 18 all, perfect time to stop this. And they said, no, somebody's going to win this game. And they were dying. You could peel them off the floor. But they were going at it. And it ended up like 26-24 finish. And all the parents are, I was waiting to get yelled at, and all the parents were just sitting there watching. And like I said, they were huffing and puffing and going at it, and big rallies, and it was fun. They weren't even serving tough. They wanted the rallies. They wanted to pass that hit. It was really fun. So I'm kind of giving you a long way of saying I kind of agree with you a little bit more on that now, about let the game, condition them as well. Because another thing, I'm not a big fan of girls standing around. We don't need to have 2 girls doing something and 8 girls standing around. So if you're all engaged and doing stuff, I think that helps a ton.
Yeah, BJ made the point, I think it was in the last couple of sessions, about letting them play, pulling one aside, work with them one-on-one, let them back in as a better process than, okay, girls or guys, let's stop and talk about stuff. I mean, you have to do a little bit of that. But if that's 5 minutes or 8 minutes in a practice of 2 hours, that's plenty.
Yeah, yeah, I
So my
agree, and they all need something different. To stop the whole team, you're wasting. If you got 15 people, you waste 15 minutes for a 1 minute speech, where you could have a 5 minute speech with one player and only waste 5 minutes.
So how do they take that? Is my question, and because sometimes girls feel like they're being singled out. You know, she's shanked 3 or 4 balls in a row. Now coach is pulling me out to yell at me, which I can't imagine you yelling at anybody. But where you might, your intention is you're taking her out and just saying, hey, it might just be take a deep breath and get a drink of water here. You're fine, and stuff. But I agree with you. I'm curious how that's perceived.
I think
It's
you're
all in the approach. Go ahead, Steve.
no, you're go BJ. You're right on what I would have said.
Yeah, it's all in the approach. I do my best to do it after something worked. So, say in your example, player shanks a couple of balls, then she passes one really well. That's the time where I have somebody else go in for after the good one. And I'll say, hey, that was a good pass. What was different about that one? Oftentimes you get, well, it went to the right spot. you know,
Yeah.
you want to hear, what changes did you make to get to the good pass rather than the bad one? Or like for us, the one I think of a lot is when we were, let's see, 11s, 12s, 13s. I coached the same team 7 years in a row, the same group of kids. I just marched up with them. Our 13s year, they wanted to start hitting one balls quick attack. So I said, all right, well, let's get 5-on-5 going. I had all 10 kids are there. And then I took out the middle, a middle, and they played 5-on-4. Then I showed the middle what a quick attack is going to look like, because they really didn't. They knew they wanted to, but they didn't understand the timing of it. So I took her to the side and said, "Hey, I know you want to do this. I think the setters can set it. The struggle is going to be getting you there on time. So let's work out the time." So you know, just we had a little discussion, and then I put her in there, and I said to the setter, "Hey, start setting her quick. Set quick attack. Figure out the timing." And I think that was, I'm certain it was the first week of the season. We had a scrimmage very shortly thereafter, and by the scrimmage they weren't hitting bombs or anything, but they were setting quick attack, and that's how we did it. We didn't set everybody down and say this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
Rightly
or wrongly, I will tell them, like, it's going to be ugly at first. This is going to be awful at first. When we start, beginning with beginning players, we will do shuttle passing just to get them to move and to control the ball. I said, it's going to look really, really awful. You're not going to be able to control it at first. Just keep doing it, because it'll get better, and you'll figure out how to control the ball. So I'll do that, and I think that's effective. The other thing I'll use when I use my big video feedback using BAM video delay, I'll run a serve receive. I'll call it a drill because it's more or less they're doing serve receive. The receiver makes a pass, they come over and watch themselves. And in the beginning, I might give them feedback, or I might just say, watch yourself, see what you did. Sometimes I'll say you might consider this or that, depending, but they don't want to hear too much. And what I've found is that if you're using video feedback on that kind of delay, you need to teach them how to do that. They'll kind of do it at first, and about half of them, after about 4 or 5 reps, will run by it and not even look at it. They just want to get back in. And so they need to learn how to watch themselves and how to make adjustments. And that's not as easy as I'd like it to be, but it's, you need to know they're not going to be great at coaching themselves at first, but they will get better at it.
How do you guys deal with, is your practice mistakes? We look at something that I've had to kind of change because body language and facial expression. and stuff. And I have, again, last few years, you drill one into the back wall, it's not the end of the world. When I first started coaching, every bad pass, every bad hit was the end of the world, even to me. And now I just, swing away, and kind of like what you said, it's like, okay, that last hit was a great hit. What did you do differently, and that kind of interaction and stuff. But I think you have to have an atmosphere where they feel comfortable making mistakes. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's
It
something
does.
that's changed the last couple of years. Just, hey, that's okay. We had a hitter, trying to teach her a line shot, and she drills 5 in a row down the sidelines, but it's coming. You can see it's coming, and just to have that patience, and because if you don't have that patience, and they don't believe you have that patience, they're never going to try it in a game. I just wonder how you
Yeah.
guys are with mistakes and things like that.
Yeah, that was this is my first big coaching uh, revolution was the one I discussed already. 90, it would have been, yeah, about 2 years in. My second big coaching revolution was about 7, 8 years ago, maybe, and it that was one of the big changes. Was we started off with I was really conservative about mistakes previously, and focused on them. And now we're focused on them, but usually it starts with, hey, look, it's one of the very first things. We're going to make a ton of mistakes. Probably the first three things I say to kids, I help them understand you're your own expert. You're I know I'm here, but you're the expert of you. So you have to carry that weight. Two is mistakes. You're going to have to make them. You need to make them so that we know what your full range is. If you're doing what's safe, you're not expanding your range. And I think range is a term to me that becomes more and more and more important in coaching. We need to develop a player's range in taking a ball to their left or to their right or above their head or whatever it is, or hitting a ball, to the line or to the angle or to somewhere in between line and angle cut. I mean, there's an infinite number of angles you can take, but you can't practice one angle to get better at the other. Specificity doesn't work that way. So mistakes is number two. And then I think number three, thinking with my third and fourth graders this past did a 6-week session, I think the third big thing was we're going to laugh with people, not at them. you know, and I think just setting the tone that way, Mark, is I think it's important to do early, and then you have to, at every opportunity, you have to accept the mistake and kind of almost praise it. Like, hey, I see you building your range there. You're getting, I see what you're going for. Is that what you were going for? No, I was going for this. Oh, yeah, okay. Well, here's maybe another way that you can think about it. I think that's probably just working on that conversation. To me, that was a huge change for me. Was getting over the mistakes. I wish I'd have done that better early, because I mean, I was even early on, I was punishing kids for mistakes, and like that's a double negative, you know.
Mm.
I don't know, Steve, if you had thoughts about that.
Yeah, I've got, I've had players. I think a mistake, and I'm just thinking out loud here a little bit, but I want the mistake to teach them something and to get them to change. And so I'll intervene. I have a player right now who is slow to get that concept. So, one day I said, the definition of insanity. And he's like, no. And I said, well, it's doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. He goes, yeah, coach, that's why I toss the ball differently every time I serve. And I'm like, okay, you got me. But that said, here, this is a player who has tremendous potential, but right now is kind of stuck hitting the ball the way he thinks the ball needs to be hit, which is to, absolutely crush it and overpower it. And, keep the only 900 feet he can't hit are on the court. And so he's getting better, but just to get him to the point where he's got this picture of a D1 or maybe pro player that he wants to swing like, and he's just not there yet. And so getting him to kind of realize that himself, and towards the end of the season he started to do that and started to have more success. Now to get him to go, hey, there's lots of different hits you can make, is the next step for him. But I try to catch him doing something right. When they come off, I think you're doing it right when I've got players on the JV team who are just learning, they're awkward, and they're high school kids, and to have your weakest player make a play and score a point and watch the whole bench erupt in fantastic gets you to go, they want each other to succeed, so you must be doing something fairly right at that point. If you have a bench of people going, I can't believe he's playing, then you got a problem.
No, I completely agree. It's funny. You talked about the mistake part. We had a girl a couple years ago, Claire. She's working on her jump serve, and she'd asked me if she could do it, and it was first game of the year, and I said, yeah, go for it. And she drilled that ball probably into the next town, just shot straight up in the air. And you could see on the video, I have it cut and saved somewhere, and you can just see me on the sideline trying not to laugh. And she knows, she's super embarrassed and stuff. And her and I had made eye contact, and I've got my shirt, and stuff, and she just starts laughing. She had a great game, and she. I asked her at a timeout, I said, you going to jump serve again? And she's like, are you kidding me? I said, yeah, why not? I said, if you feel it, don't ask me, just go do it. And she did. She didn't do it in that game, but in the next game, when it was her turn to serve, she went for it, and it was a great serve. And I was excited for her. And like I said, it's hard. It's hard to let that go, to let them fail like that, it's the last time I let her jump serve, she served it into the river, but she needs to be able to do it again. Actually, another thing I've changed at is in a club team. Sometimes I'm so set on who's going to serve. Some of the girls have to kind of go, hey, can I serve this game? And I look at them, yeah, why not? Okay, go serve. And it's been hard. You go in with this game plan, you're the passer, you're the hitter, you're the server, you're the setter. And this club season, towards the end of that club season, they're all, hey, can I serve this time? Or, hey, can I serve this game? And even if it meant we ran a 6-2 in our club season, even if that put me in a 5-1 for one rotation. And it got to a point where the girls, I'd let that hitter that usually has a setter come in and serve for her. I just tell them, say, hey, you've got two hitters, and they look, yep, we got it. No problems, no issues. It's really fun.
Yeah, that's a big one. I think just as we've been talking about this, I was thinking about something Pete Wong posted today in the volleyball coaches and trainers group. It was about trees in a biosphere where they're blocked from the wind, and they're falling over anyway. These trees are falling over, and the reason is that they weren't being stressed enough by the wind in order to grow the way they needed to grow in order to stand up. So that, it's a neat story, and I don't know, I haven't looked up the scientific portion of it, but it was just a cute story, or if it was really something that occurred. But I think that's something. It's probably something that I did wrong early on. I was doing my best to put pressure on kids, but it was more mental or emotional, and it wasn't physical. We were doing drills, and it's really controlled in a drill environment. So you're not getting that type of stress. You're not learning how to adapt and how to grow from it. I think that's another big benefit. And then, of course, quit putting the mental or emotional pressure on kids. Get them out there and get them get them to strain physically. How do I make that move, or how do I hit the ball to this spot or that spot? That's where you want the pressure to be, is not on their, on their personal, or on their person as much, or their mental side. I don't know. It's just another one I thought of as you were talking about that. It's a good point. Any other ones? Any other big changes? Stuff that either of you guys did or don't do
I
anymore?
I would love to say this on VCT or some of the other ones to the new coaches that come out of college or whatever. I think the biggest shock to me when I got to high school was that just because a kid tried out for volleyball doesn't mean they love it as much as I do. That was a huge lesson for me to learn. I learned that in my first JV job. These kids, they played volleyball because they wanted to be with their friends. Yeah, you had a couple crazy volleyball, do the club, but some of these girls don't even touch a volleyball in the off season, and you had to make them love it. You wanted them to come to practice. Or you had to make them do it. One of the biggest compliments, although it wasn't a compliment to the coach that replaced me, but I had found out a girl that I had coached for a couple years at a previous school. She quit, and I heard about it, and I texted her and I said, "Why'd you quit?" And she said that, "You made me love volleyball," and she made me hate it, and I hated hearing that from her. And it was, and we talked about it, and she was, when as a freshman, she was that kid. I want to go play with my friends. I don't want to do cross country or any of the other fall sports, so I'll try out this volleyball thing, and and she loved it. That you see the slideshow I post on my personal page once in a while, or the into memories. You can see how much they loved it, and that was hard for me to learn too. When I got my first high school head job, that was one of the things I said I have to do, is I have to make them love this. And I think it does start with me. I think it starts with everything that we've talked about: be on time, be engaged, be prepared. You can't. I can't tell you how many times I come into club tournaments and you see coaches look like they're hungover. Or they, you can just tell. I mean, I they deserve your best. I think that goes a long way to how they perceive you and how hard they'll work for you. With your engagement. Again, that's the wedding DJ in me. I walk in and my ties doesn't look good, or I've got a spill, or as silly as it sounds. And just, it's even with games. It's I want to present that I'm there to coach this game, or I'm there for this tournament. I don't know how else to say that, but I just, that it hasn't necessarily been a change for me, but it's been something that I've wanted to incorporate every team that I coach. I want them to love volleyball when they leave, and not all of them do, but I want them to love it.
Yeah, I think getting them to enjoy it and to feel like they're in a respectful environment. My guys this year, we're not drawing great athletes from other sports. We're getting some. Actually, I'm getting a lot of wrestlers for whatever reason, but but it's interesting to see how they embrace one another. And I had a little bit of conflict this year, but it was handled. It was handled in a reasonable way. I had one ultra competitive, very good ball player who got frustrated with some of the younger guys and with some of the guys who were there to play for fun, and he had to deal with that, and they had to deal with that, and we got through that okay. But in general, if you ask my guys, I go, we like the guys we play with. We like being in the gym. We make it fun. But it's in a real weird environment. I don't think I had maybe but 2 players who made more than 80% of practices for all kinds of reasons. Some good, some bad. It's a very different environment. I'm actually talking to a school, because I don't coach in the girls' side, and I'm looking at some options this coming. And they've got the athletic department policy. I mean, if you're not there, the day before, you miss anything, you can't play. That's not my current school. I had to have nobody on the court if I adhered to those. And I'm not saying we shouldn't try to get there, but it's a slow process. I don't know about you, BJ.
Well, I was going to ask you if you wanted to handle that question, but yeah, I agree with
Yeah.
you.
I think
100%,
this
Steve.
the question is our big finish, right? Here's the big
Yeah,
finish,
let's do
guys.
it. Yeah, what piece of advice would you give a brand new coach who's
Okay.
new to coaching and new to volleyball? For me, and I was going to say this anyway as one of my big mistakes, um, we were way too complex in our training and in our systems. I would simplify the training by saying to a new coach, you don't need to know everything. They're going to learn the game by playing the game. If you need to work on ball control, you play a lot of doubles, stick a pool noodle in the net so you can make two courts and play a lot of 2-on-2 and a lot of 3-on-3. And if you need to work on, full court serve receive or systems, you get them out there 6-on-6 or 6-on-4, 6-on-3, 5-on-5, and learn the systems that way while they're on the court doing it. I think that's what it would be for me. Just make
The
that
one
stuff simple,
the
easier for
one
everyone.
question I'd have for Gabriel is what level, what age group, let's say, not level, because you can have a group of high school seniors who are all brand new players, but that would be helpful to know. But that said, I agree there. My most popular teaching video on my Coach Steve channel is the basics of rotation, and it's literally a diagram showing them how to go around the six positions, and people watch that like crazy, and I get really great comments on it. It's just illustrating how rotation works. I think it's how the basics of how rotation works. Let your players watch that. It's no more than six people going around the positions, but it's a good start. And then I agree. Now, let's assume you don't know what doubles are, or you don't know what
No,
a pool noodle is, or how it works.
sure,
So you're
sure.
going to walk out on the court. You're going to get them to play right off the bat. Brand new varsity coach returning 5 varsity players. Let's put that up there.
Good.
So that
Um,
helps. Let's
Even
hit that
easier.
mark. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
So I'm
even
going to let you
easier.
guys handle that.
Mark, what's your advice first before we dive into the specific stuff?
I think there's actually two things. I think one of the things is you listen to your players. That also goes back to something I had to learn. I can come in with my legal pad of stuff I want to do, and if they come up to me and just say, game last night we didn't receive serve well, can we do that XYZ drill? We thought that really helped us, and to be able to, maybe I don't want to do it today, but then at the same time they're asking you for something, listen to them. And I 9 times out of 10 I probably do it. Or I'll say, okay, let's, here's where I was going to do serve receive. Here's what my plan was. And, I'd let my captains kind of talk a little bit, because I kind of know what they need, especially if you're an inexperienced coach. Let your players talk to you a little bit. And I think the other thing is, network a little bit. Find a couple people that have been coaching for a while. Maybe it's not somebody where you're at, but VCT's got 20,000 plus coaches. Get a mentor, get a buddy that you can sit in a Zoom thing and just say, like he's saying, I'm a brand new varsity coach. I got 5 returning varsity players. What would you do? And or just talk. Share a little video, what have you. I think those two things. I've talked to Gabe a couple of times, but those are the two things I would suggest, other than what you guys have said.
Yeah. Steve, we can't hear you.
Sorry. This is what David Roper had to say when we talked to him way back when. New varsity coach with almost the same situation that Gabriel has. And this is what he said, which is exactly what Mark just said.
Yeah.
Except I didn't spell
Yeah.
fundamentals right.
Not so much teaching fundamentals.
Yeah,
They direct
fundamentals.
me. They lead by letting me know what they can do. Yeah, neat stuff from Steve. Yeah, to go back to your question, Steve, doubles, that's just 2 versus 2. Normally we shrink the court a little bit. So in order to shrink the court, um, a pool noodle just becomes a third antenna that you can weave into the net anywhere you want. We split the net into thirds or in half, or sometimes we'll split it 1/3, 2/3, so that there's maybe two people working on a doubles game, and then we got a bunch of people working on triples or a 2 versus 4 or something like that on the bigger half. Um, and it's an inexpensive way to constrain the court a little bit, make it just a little tougher. It's easier and tougher. It's easier because there's fewer people. It's tougher because you got a smaller court. you know, but there's a lot you can do and experiment with that.
Yeah, we have a ton of those noodles at our club too. You know, we're always one of the things I really like about our club is all the teams have to a day where they have to be the ones to pick up all the equipment and put them away, and we're always putting noodles away and things like that. So that's what I always say is the BJ part of my practice. They don't know what I'm talking about, but mentally, it's like whenever I do a little short court doubles or something, it's like a homage to BJ that. And it's like, oh, he'd be so happy with me today. So,
I think drawing
Go
from this conversation, also, Gabriel, I'd want to know what their favorite drills from the past were, the things that they like to do, which I probably wouldn't do until we had our conversation today. I'd say that. I'd say if you don't know, or if they don't play queens or speedball, lots of that. I think that is a start would get them going and learning how to handle the ball the way it's actually played, as opposed to in a structured drill environment.
Let's end with let's just ask this question, because we've talked a lot about our old errors. Let's ask how many different base drills do you use in your gym, Steve?
Probably about 5. I'll call Kings and Speedball almost the same thing. I have available that I use, which is a hitting drill, but hit off a pass. We'll work on. I actually do use a blue lip drill. That's more for getting the middles and it's blue lip only because the middles work hard, but getting them to go pin to pin and get our blocking going against an attack. Not a whole lot more than those 3. I mean, we play a lot. We'll work a lot with new teams. We spend a lot of time working on rotation. I do not like to get called out of rotation. I want my players to understand it. If in a good year, half my players understand it and they move the other half of guys around. But if we get to that, we don't get called out. They understand, some of them understand the nuances of it and stacking and all that. If we get there, we get there. If we don't, we don't.
Gotcha. Mark, how many?
8, maybe 8 to 10.
Yeah.
Probably, it's hard because of the 6-on-6 or 4-on-6 kind of stuff, because you can almost say, if you called that one, then I'd probably say 4 or 5, because we do so much. Sometimes we have the 4 attack the 6. Sometimes the 6, the 4. It just depends. But I really like I said, most of my practice is that. One side of the court has to have 6, and sometimes when you do like a 4-on-6, you have, or even a 5-on-6, if you have an extra player or something, or at high school you've got 12 girls. I always tell the one side, play whatever position you want. So I'll have my libero is 5'3", and she'll block the 6-footer, and oh my, that'll change your practice for sure and stuff. But sometimes it's kind of fun, and sometimes you see something that you just you're so pigeonholed, and this is the hitter, this is the passer. Sometimes when you let them fool around a little bit, you realize, wow, there's my backup setter, or maybe wow, she needs to hit a little bit more, or she needs to pass a little bit more. How about you, BJ?
I'm down to 8. Yeah, I'm down to 8. Really only 2 drills, where I call a drill now anything that comes to an unnatural ending. So if you don't play the point out, to me it's a drill. So I'm down to 2 of those, like a serve receive drill where we're just, we're serving a ball and ranking passing, and they do still pass set hit, but then we will hit the ball and it ends on a dig. So that's one of them. And then I've got another drill it's sort of like butterfly, but it's a serve pass set hit. They get 4 balls, but they're also competing. So or it's 3, 4, 5 balls, however many you want. It's going both directions on a 1/3 of a court, and everybody plays every position, but it's the same deal where they get 4 balls and everybody rotates 1, 4 balls and they rotate 1, 4 and rotate. But there too, it's an unnatural ending. It ends either with a dig, if somebody digs it, the game is over. But then the other 6 is 1v1, 2v2, 3v3, 4v4, 5-on-5, and a 6. We call it 6 versus X because, like you said, Mark, sometimes you get, you've got 8 players. I want the 6 side to get reps as 6. Right. So we'll just play, 6 versus 2, and then we rotate everybody to the 2 side because that's the fun side. So we'll play that with a different scoring system where you got to score this way or that way, or use baseball scoring or tennis or board game or something. That could be 6 versus 3 or 6 versus 4 or whatever it is. And we just change the rules. I think Doug Beal answered 6 when we asked him that at Cap 3, Steve.
Yeah.
And he said, but every drill has 1,000 variations. So that was the challenge to me. I started writing all the scoring variations down that I had. I would call them constraints more than scoring variations because we do, there's different things where you can only score by this, or you have to do this before you can score. And I counted, I think I got to like 45 or 47 scoring variations that I have. But yeah, it's gotten pretty simple. That makes it a lot simpler for me.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I've like you. I've got those books of things that I've seen, and sometimes you dust them off and bring something in that you like. I forgot Mike's drill, but the drill Mike designed, and we documented an video on that. Same idea though. What I'm going to add is I'm going to add more scoring things as I go along. And I think the other piece that I added this year that didn't come up, but came out of our discussion with Jim, was talking the on-court communication. I have definitely added the pre-receive discussions rather than focusing on mine. Mine if we're in transition, because then you kind of need to know where people are scrambling. But beyond that, it's decide up front and make the play, and that's helped us a lot.
Yeah, could not agree more. I'm not a big fan of the mine. That was something my assistant coach and I kind of went round and round about. Is you let them work it out, and I don't need to hear them say mine. The girl next to her needs to hear them say mine or have that worked out and stuff. So I 100% in agreement with you on that.
That's a little bit of autonomy too for them. That's a topic we'll get into. I have a guest lined up to talk about autonomy, although he's an expert. So we've been avoiding experts to some degree. Or we've had experts on, but then we didn't talk about their expertise because we're doing our best to be learners in this podcast. But that autonomy is really important just for ownership, and they believe it helps in improving the skill as well. So I think I love it for that reason. I don't know, Steve. We're past our hour. You got to.
Yeah. No. This one. Thanks, Mark. 2, for those who are watching or want to subscribe, click subscribe. Click notification, and it'll tell you when we're on, which is always good. And there'll be a podcast to this. I'm getting my workflows better there, so I'm getting more of them out, BJ. So I'm trying to get the backlog out, and this one will be out soon, maybe later today if things go well. And Mark, thanks very much for being with us.
You bet. Thank
Mark,
you.
We'll see you in the green room.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, we'll see you folks next time. Thanks for the comments today, and have fun in your gyms.